What's going on, y'all? This is Straight on Irregular Raps. Welcome to my show. Welcome to my show, man. So we're going to have a good show today because I have a guest who was on my show last month, and he talked some good stuff about branding, weaknesses for artists, how you can get better at those things, how you can strengthen your weaknesses, and, some other good stuff, man. He knows his stuff. The guy I'm going to bring on is named Victor Smith from Sanctified Sound. And he also, I'm gonna let him talk more about this, but he also has a school that just started. I think the enrollment just started. But I'll let him talk about that too. But this guy, he's a mentor, he's a career coach for artists, man. He knows his stuff. And today we're going to talk about traction. We're going to talk about goals. We're going to talk about some other things that may prick you a little bit if you don't want to hear some stuff that may, make you feel uncomfortable as an artist, but it's stuff that I think will help you learn and grow to be better at pushing your music out. And whether it's performing, whatever it is, we like to really touch on different areas where artists struggle with. So I think that's a good thing for all the people who are going to be tuned in today. Also, man, if you have a question for Victor, please drop me a comment and I'll show the question to him. I'll bring the question up to him to see if he can answer it. So I'm gonna bring Victor on the show right now. What's going on, Victor? How you doing, man?
What's going on? Good to be here. Man, I'm excited. Let's try to help some folks.
Yeah, man. This show is going to be good, I think, because I think a lot of artists struggle with this one topic. By the way, if you missed the last show, I think that was a good show as well. Like I said, we talked about branding and weaknesses. So if you missed it, you can search by going to my Irregular Raps page on Facebook or YouTube, and you can catch the last show. And if you want to get some tips on how to get better at those things, just look at that show. But today, man, I feel like a lot of artists struggle with getting somewhere with their music. And I think in general, people who want to get somewhere like in their business or whatever they're trying to thrive at, they struggle at getting somewhere. And when I talked to you before, I think one of the key things that I think is good to build traction is consistency, but I think there's a lot more than consistency. So with that said, man, my first question for you is like, what would you say traction is when it comes to pushing out music as an artist?
Okay, right into it. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
The hard hitting questions.
Hey.
I got you. So we talked about, I know let's kind of just make this clear. There is a difference between consistency and traction. Okay, so when we look at the word consistency and we look at the word traction, I don't know, for some of my old heads, they used to have like this little toy back in the day. It was like this little remote control toy that it was like this big truck that had big wheels to it, right? And so every time it would get to an obstacle, some little claws will come out, you know what I'm saying? And just like lift you over the obstacle, right? And so you had that, it was able to get over the obstacle because those little claws and stuff came out, right? And so when I think about the word traction, that's in my mind is because it helps lift you over a specific obstacle, right? So, but in the middle of that, we think about consistency. Consistency is like, you can be consistently bad at something. You know what I'm saying? You can, consistently not do things, or you can be consistently lazy. You can be, people consistently put out like garbage, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and it's not just the consistency that makes you successful. It is, like we talked about, the traction. And so I like this example. I know we talked about it before, is the example of being stuck in the mud. Mm-hmm. And let's say, we just had this big, this cold snap come through here and, just wrecked our lives, right? Some people stuck in the house and stuff like that. But let's say if you're stuck outside trying to get home and you get stuck on the side of the road, you're trying to get off the side of the road, it's finished raining and you have your wheels spinning. it's just spinning and you not going anywhere, right? And
Yeah.
so you're being consistent, you're hitting the gas, but and the wheels are consistently going, but you're not going anywhere. You know,
Hmm.
you're doing everything that you need to do as in your career. You're doing everything that you think needs to get done. Um, and you're not you're being consistent. You're doing everything that people have told you to do. You read all the books and you're all of this, but you're not gaining any traction. And like I said, what traction is that wood block that's like stuck up in there. Now you have something that's going to help you to get out of that mud, and to get you going. So that's we have to understand the difference between consistency and traction. You can be consistently going wrong, but with traction is going to help you get to whatever your goal is.
Yeah, that video game references, you kind of stumped me on that because I don't know what video game you was
No,
playing.
it was a little toy. It was a little
Okay.
toy. It was like a little
Oh,
remote control little toy with an engine in
got you,
it.
got
And
you,
then when it gets to like a block of wood or something like that, or a little
got,
toy that'll make it
got you.
stop, these little claws will come out of the
Okay,
wheels and
okay.
start lifting it. It'll lift it over the obstacle. It's like, man, it was it was something to see. It looked creepy. I'm gonna put it that way.
I'm like, is he talking about Nintendo, Sega? All right, now I got you. All right. So when I think of traction though, too, man, like, I feel like what you said is important because a lot of times people are very consistent, but you need more than consistency to gain traction. So what I think about too is like the quality. Would you say quality is a big thing that artists need to get better at developing? Like quality, I don't know, quality on the way they sound, the quality of the music. Do people struggle a lot with quality to gain traction?
I don't think quality is as important as you think it is when it comes to being successful. A lot of times people focus so much on quality that they don't do what's necessary to get it out. Because think about when you go to the grocery store. I know I probably talked about this last time, but
Mhm.
speaking of which, if you haven't listened to the last one, go back and it had some good stuff on there. Um, but if you listen to like going grocery shopping and you just go and get some regular food, right? You ain't thinking about the music. Stop and listen to the music sometimes, and then like listen to some of the stuff that they're playing. Elevator music and stuff like that. Sometimes it's not always good. I'm in the store trying to get some jambalaya because we like jambalaya here, and I'm trying to get some sausage and some chicken and something like that, and then I'll stop and listen to the music while I'm trying to figure out which package I'm gonna get, and then a song will come on, and I'm like who approved this? You know what I'm saying? Like, who
Yeah,
said that we're done and let's put this out,
yeah.
And I'm like, yo, like we working too hard on quality. We're working way too hard, and people are just putting little, video game beats
Mm,
and they rap into it, putting auto tune to it, and they're going platinum.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
yeah,
yo, like we're working too hard. Like we're
yeah.
so focused on the quality that we're not figuring out, okay, so what do I do with this afterwards? You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying quality is not important. What I'm saying is that we spend too much time thinking about the quality instead of starting. That's like businesses that are trying to be perfect when they come out. When Fortune 500 companies were not perfect when they started.
Mm,
They'll even tell you start with what you have, for what you have is plenty.
mm,
That's what they tell everybody. Start with what you have. What you have is plenty. So don't be so worried about. And there's this other thing that's called paralysis by over analysis. Okay, you're paralyzed. You're paralyzed, and you're not thinking of trying to get to one other part because you're trying to be perfect. You're not even coming out of the starting block
yeah.
because you're trying to be perfect. You're trying to have the perfect engine. You're trying to have the perfect CD, the perfect video and all this type of stuff. And it takes a while to get there, but your career's not moving. And
You said,
go ahead.
So can you rephrase that phrase? You said paralysis over what again?
Over analysis.
Over analysis.
Over analyze things.
Yeah.
That are in the long run not as important as we think it is. We're so focused on the wrong things that we don't move at all. And so even with our projects, we hold it so much, so long, because one word is messed up, or hey, this I hear a little click here, and you're going through with a fine-tooth comb. Put that joker out. Put it out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's never been ever have been a perfect out.
Yeah, that's true. I'm guilty of that too. I've held on to music because I didn't like stuff, and I think that's going to always happen. Like you're always going to. We're our best critical people on our
a lot music. Of people aren't even hearing it.
Yeah,
they don't even hear what you hear.
For real.
Like if it's going to change, if it's going to do what you say or what you think it is going to do, then those little clicks and pops for people who really need it, they don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about when you go to a restaurant. When we go to a restaurant, we go. Do we stand at the counter or in the drive-through, look at our food, and say, "Hey, this don't look like the picture."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Think about that. Do we ever stop and say, "Hey, this don't look like the picture. I need you to go back and make this again until it looks like the picture. I'll wait."
Real quick, man. Real quick. Somebody asked a question. How do we overcome that tendency?
So the tendency to be,
I believe the tendency of holding on to your music is because I think that's what we were talking about, like holding on to something for so long. How do we overcome that? I guess, and just release it. Is there, and I guess I would add on to that question, is there something that we should focus on in the music and be like, okay, now I can release it, or or maybe it's a habit that people have and that habit is something that we should break because we keep holding on to the music for so long because of this or that.
Yep. Okay, so if we think about, let's go back to the word traction. Okay, so we talked about tendency, we talked about traction. Think about traction as setting goals, setting a timeline or a deadline for stuff being out. Our problem is that we don't pencil in a deadline and saying, "Hey, it has to be done at this particular point." We set no goals. We set no deadline, no consequences or anything. We literally set, we don't do any of that. And so it really on us to say, hey, we don't have anybody backing us. We don't have anybody pushing us. We don't have no accountability. And we don't have, we're not even giving it to somebody else to say, what do you think? We're literally just going off of our gut and saying, hey, I don't want, we're stuck on this phrase here, first impression. We're stuck on that first impression, which is, I'm not saying is a bad thing, but it's a crippling thing if you let it. Okay. Going back to the example that I was using before, those folks in those restaurants sometimes don't even care how it looks. They know you're hungry. So I need to get it to you. Okay. Yep. So it's not going to look like the picture. You know what I'm saying? But when you get it, you're just going to drive off and, and look in and just make sure that it's right. Make sure your cheese is not on there. You're not looking to make sure the lettuce is plump. You know what I'm saying? That the cheese, is melted correctly with, not with the angle of the cheese. You know how like the American cheese had a little angle, you're not looking to see if that's, you know what I'm saying?
You are looking to make sure you got everything. I know people do that.
But you ain't looking to see that it's perfectly pressed over the meat. You know what I'm saying?
For real. Yep. I don't know.
So
I've had picky eaters. They kind of look at the food and be like, "Man, this is sloppy." You know, unless it's sloppy, that's another
yeah,
story. But yeah,
egregiously sloppy. Now, and that lends to the point of making sure that it's good enough
mm,
to be edible, or you know, we talk about food, or
yeah,
be good enough for people to listen to. Like I said, we're not looking for perfect. We're looking to see that, hey, does this fit what you're trying? Does this fit the goal? You have
hmm
a whole bunch of singers who cannot sing, and
yeah,
I'm talking about national singers that's out there.
yeah,
They slap the auto tune on there, and they put it out.
hmm
They slap the auto tune and they put it out. Not
yeah,
everybody is going to like it, and you have to be okay with that. But your
mm,
audience is going to love it. Think about the mumble rap. There's an audience for mumble rap. To me, if you don't get back in the studio and make some sense, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. But by the way, like people watching, if you have any other questions for Victor, I believe that question that the Risa, I believe her name is, good question. If anybody else has a question, feel free to drop a comment, and I'll as well ask the question. But yeah, man, I wanna come back to trashing because I don't want to escape that. You know, I feel like I have another question that's going to
yeah.
escape it, but I'm gonna reel it back. And you said like, what about people? You know, there may be a song we listen to, the song is basic, and we're like, man, how did that get on the radio? So what is that? Like, do we have to focus on more of the, you know, making music that's more simple, basic, or do we have to like focus on something else? Is it because I think about branding too. I feel like people aren't getting traction because they're not branding enough, you know.
No, it's not the branding, because the branding, we go back to what we talked about before. Branding is, you know, the logos, the
Mark,
picture, all that. It's the
yeah,
marketing,
marketing,
of it.
mark,
They have a plan on marketing. Their plan on marketing is genius. They have
yeah,
a
yeah.
genius plan, and you can market anything. You can market an igloo in a desert, and it'll work. You know what I'm saying? If your marketing plan is solid.
Yeah.
But we spend so much time on the product that we don't spend enough time on the marketing of the product, and we're wondering why we're not being successful.
Mm.
Does
Okay,
that
well, yeah, that makes good sense. Would you say that's the number one thing why people don't gain traction though?
make that ain't the number one thing. It's a lot of things.
For real.
Okay, so let me go back to the basics. Okay, so you have to figure out, number one, every artist is different. Every artist has a different goal
And there's different levels of
of artists. Yeah.
yeah,
hmm And you have different levels of goals.
yeah.
Um, I know we'll probably touch on that in a second, but you have to figure out what you're trying to do with your career. I mentioned before, on the other podcast, that um, we both do music, right? And so, well, I did music for 20 years, but if we were to do, let's say, hey, you know, me and you, we're not gonna do it together, but we're at the same time doing music. Your goals for you would be different from my goals. My direction would be different from your direction. Doesn't mean I'm going to be less successful. It just means our goals are different. Okay. So we have to make sure that, number one, we know what we're trying to reach. We have to see the end game before we can go and head somewhere. A lot of times what artists do is they just put it out there just to see what happens. That is the mantra for the hobbyists. Okay. If you're a
Mhm.
hobbyist, remember what I said before. If you're a hobbyist, you're not going to don't expect success. Don't expect success if this is your hobby. So you're trying to quit your job and you're trying to do this on the side as a hobby. Good luck.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not gonna say it's not gonna work, but there's a high chance that it's not gonna be that you're probably gonna look for another job before this actually becomes something that's going to sustain you. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
so I know we have another question.
Yeah. Well, we got a comment.
Mhm,
Teresa, she liked the example you gave about the food. That was a good example.
mhm.
I want to go on to traction. As far as like how do we know we are gaining traction? Do we look at
Okay.
sales and stream the number of those things? Does that
Mhm.
prove that we are gaining traction? What proves that we are gaining good traction?
Okay, so now we get into the meat. Okay, so this is the measuring stick on whether you're going to be successful or not. And it's exactly what I said before: is you setting goals. You have to set goals. There's no way around it. Um, Measurable goals that you can see that, hey, I started here, and if I do such and such, such and such, such and such, I'm going to be here. Okay, it's stuff to make sure that I'm not where I was when I first got started. You have to set measurable goals. That's what traction is.
Yeah.
Remember the example that I used for the wheels, and when those claws came out, you were on one side of the obstacle, but when those claws came out, it lifted you over the obstacle, and now you're on the other side, right? Consistency says, hey, it's just spinning the wheels, and you just spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning it, but you can't measure consistency, but you can measure traction, because what traction is setting goals. You have to figure out where are you trying to go, what are you trying to do, and what is it going to take to get to that particular goal, right? That's
Mm.
what traction is, you'll know whether you're having traction is if you're actually setting those small goals and you're reaching those small goals consistently.
Mm.
You feel me?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I know people, artists, they will, for example, Spotify gives you like the amount of stream numbers that people are viewing. I think that's a good thing. But is that something that artists should really be happy about if they have a lot of stream numbers? I just wanted to add that question because I just wonder myself. I don't like, for me, um I don't know. It can come across in different ways. It's a good accomplishment to show people that, yeah, people see my stream numbers. This is what's happening. But is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
Depends on why you're doing it. Now, if you're doing it to show a business person or a group of people that you're serious, you're trying to get them to back you on whatever your business venture is, or your career,
Mm.
that's a great thing to do, because you have to show your numbers. You have to show that you're a viable entity, or you're serious about what you're doing. But if you're just putting it out there, it literally comes across as cocky. It comes across as boastful. But if you put those numbers out there and somebody with some real numbers see it,
Yeah.
then you look like, man, this dude's a joke. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like, why are you putting that out? That makes no sense.
Mm.
Like you have to work in secret. You don't
Yeah.
see Usher putting out his stream numbers. You know what I'm saying? You don't see
Yeah.
McCray,
Yeah.
putting out his streaming numbers and stuff like that. They're working in secret, and they're just moving. And so they're not concerned about that type of stuff. Now they talk about that stuff in meetings
Mm.
with their people,
Okay.
but just to put it out, and just to, just for the sake of putting it out, they don't do that. So that's
Yeah.
their measurable goals. Hey, I want to have 100,000 streams in a month.
Uh,
So that's their, and so if we have like three, and then we're trying to get 100,000 at the end of the month, that's a measurable goal.
yeah.
But you don't share that measurable goal with everybody.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of artists make that mistake. I didn't want to say cocky. I didn't want to say prideful. I was like, I'm gonna let Victor say this.
It is what it is. Right? Look,
Yeah.
come see me.
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes when I see it, I'm like, it doesn't come across good all the time.
Yeah.
When I see you doing it, like, what is the reason? Is what I ask myself. So For sure, man. I definitely. My question is, if you want to present those numbers for like a business reason, what's a proper way to show it on social media? Is there a good way to present those numbers?
Absolutely. It's literally an EPK. It's an electronic press kit.
Okay.
It's just an example of to a business. Let's say you're trying to get a sponsor. They want to know what your reach is for them to put their name behind you. And so you have to have not measurable. You have to have numbers to say that, hey, we're reaching such and such amount of people. Think about it. When you're on a radio station, I don't know a lot of people just trying to get on radio stations, but
yeah,
think you have to get your ultimate goal is to get on radio stations that's reaching millions and millions and millions of people, right? How are you going to know that unless you ask or unless they put it out there to say, hey, they're reaching such and such amount of people. But they're doing that to get people to buy their packages, to say that, hey, you pay us such and such amount of money, we'll get you this many plays, and you'll be in rotation in front of X amount of millions of people. But it's that's a way that, you kind of see what I'm saying? Like, that's an example of a purpose of having that out there. So just putting it out there just for GP purposes or whatever, what's the end game? Like, why are you doing that? That makes no sense. It unless you're trying to show your friends and your family and your church members and your coworkers that you seriously doing this stuff. But they don't. At the end of the day, they don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
They don't matter as far as your career is concerned. You can ask anybody that's successful and ask them, did the fact that their friends, family, church members, and their coworkers believing in them and what they're doing is the catalyst for their success?
Yeah.
Or you can ask them, hey, your audience, if your audience loves you, they're going to support you. And so you have to market to them. You have to, what they say about you is going to matter more than your church members and your coworkers and stuff like that. Just because they don't believe in you doesn't mean that it's not going to work.
Thank you all for viewing. If you got any good comments or questions for Victor, bring them on. We're going to try to stump Victor. Nah, we just kidding. But
bring them on.
We got somebody. Yeah, we got some agreement. Somebody, Brittany, she agreed with you. There's no need to advertise and put it out there just for the sake of bragging.
Absolutely.
For sure. Goals, goals is something that artists should do for sure. And my question for you is, like, I'm gonna ask this first. How often should we look at our goals that first of all, should we be writing these goals down? Should we?
Is that the question? That's the question.
That's the question.
Absolutely. It's biblical. The Bible talks about writing the vision and making it plain, setting up on the tablets of your heart. But you have to make sure that how you're reaching your goals unless you're writing it down. Because if it stays in our head, the goal is going to change. Every day. It's going to change. You think you're going to be consistently having that goal in your head, but there's something fundamental that happens there's something fundamental that happens when you write something down. You know what I'm saying? And like it's crazy. You're a lot more focused. You're a lot more. You can see it. Get back to your other question. Yes, you should see it you should look at it every day. Every day. Think about when you're trying to lose weight. You don't just look at the scale once a quarter. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You don't look at the scale like once a week. You look at it every day to see if what I'm doing is working.
Yeah. Why should they look at it every day?
Because that you're setting measurable goals. And so if you're setting measurable goals, like think about when you're losing weight, you want to lose about what 12 pounds a week or something like, I don't know what your goal is, or 5 pounds a week, right? So you want to see every day, is what I'm specifically doing working? Okay, is the plan that I'm putting in place right now, is it working? So if it's not working, you need to change your strategy. You don't change the goal, you change your strategy on how you're reaching the goal. And this is what a lot of people do, is that because something is not working, they say that, hey, I'm going to change, I'm going to move the goalpost closer to me, instead of leaving it there and changing your footwork. You know what I'm saying? Changing however you're, what you're trying to do. If you're trying to get on a bunch of playlists, let's go back to that example about the playlist. I'm trying to get a whole bunch of streams. You have to get on a certain number of playlists.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get 50,000 streams in a certain amount of time. You have to get on certain people's playlists. Right? Just because you put it on Spotify, there's 50 million songs right now on Spotify. You're not going to hit that goal in about, if you don't get on certain people's playlists, right? Yeah. So you have to figure out, whose playlist do I need to get on that's going to get me a lot of play, right? And so you're reaching out, you're contacting a certain amount of people. Let's say if you want to contact I don't know. Just throw a number out there. You want to contact 10 people a day, right? So that's 70 people. That's 70 people a week. Y'all do the math. For a month or whatever. But if you consistently do that every day, by the time you hit the seventh day, you need to figure out if what you're doing is working. Maybe you need to contact them a different way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But if you don't set those measurable goals and looking at them every day, you're not going to know if it's working or not.
Is there a such thing as a goal that's too big? Because maybe, like you said, there's a lot of stream music that's being streamed online, and their stream numbers may be so big, but maybe you're just starting out as an artist, and you make your goal like really big as far as like numbers. Is it? I mean, should we be realistic about our goals? More realistic?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You have to figure out and be honest with yourself with where you are in your career. You have to be honest with yourself. Now,
what would happen if it's too big? You feel like
this is what happens with a lot of people, is that, and I'm not saying this is for everybody, but with a lot of people that I know that I've worked with, when you set your goals too big, the disappointment hurts a lot more. You feel like you're doing so much that when you don't get anything, you feel like, hey, it's not working, I need to do something else. Instead of setting those small goals and trying to get on playlists, period, figure out the process of how to get on playlists with somebody small.
And that's strategy, right?
It's a strategy.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing is not, everything is good, okay? Make sure that you're focused on the process, not the goal. Okay. So this is what I love. And I love listening to Eric Thomas, E.T. the hip hop preacher. And what he talks about is falling in love with the process. This is what successful people do. Think about LeBron James, right? LeBron James is not obsessed. Well, he is obsessed with the championship. But if you asked him, what does he love about what he does? Yeah. He's going to tell you he loves working out. He loves the process. He loves the playing, the practices, the camaraderie with the brotherhood. He won't change that for the world. It's the process. It's the process. You love working out. You think about The Rock. He's always in the gym, clanging and banging. You know what I'm saying? That's his thing. It's like the Iron Gym, and it's not necessarily the money at the end of all of this. He loves working out.
Yeah.
You're falling in love with the process, right?
Yeah. And
the goal is gonna come.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I feel like a lot of people have a hard time falling in love with something, but we have to learn how to. I don't know if this is going to be an easy question for you to answer, but is there an easy way, or is there a way to love something you don't like doing? How do we do that? What do we just keep doing it until we fall, or no. What comes to my mind is that maybe I have to be more creative in some things that I don't like doing, like marketing, for example. Maybe if I start to be creative in marketing, then I'll fall in love with it more. But I'm gonna let you answer that.
Yeah, it's simple. When you set small goals, you celebrate small successes.
Mm,
When you celebrate your small success, you're gonna fall in love with the process. Think about this. Remember, let's go back to LeBron James. Uh, it's not necessarily you think about what they talk about and say, hey, this game matters. The next game matters. The next game matters. The next game matters. You see what I'm saying? It's
yeah,
like it's those small goals, it's those small wins that's going to consistently put you in it's you're gonna love those small wins. And when you don't hit them, it's gonna hit you hard. It's gonna make you work harder because I gotta get another small win.
that makes
Um,
sense.
so one of the stories that's in my book called
What
Are You
are you
Serious?
serious?
Yeah, Are You Serious? Is available on my website, www.sanctifiedsound.org. I talk about my mom, and I used to spend a lot of time with my mom when I was little, and she was always getting what she wanted. I'm talking about like she called creditors and she get stuff taken off. She would get like discounts and stuff like that, and I'm just like I'll be listening to her. And when I got, a little older to kind of pay my own bills, I tried that same stuff and it didn't work. And I'm like, why is it working for you and it ain't working for me? You know what I'm saying? I'm doing the same exact thing. I'm saying the thing. I want to talk to the manager. I want to talk to your supervisor. She would just have that crazy favor. And what
Mm,
I realized is that she would celebrate her small successes every time that she would do it. She created a winning culture, right? And
mm,
it's not about the big fish, it's just about eating.
mm,
You know
mm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You got to celebrate the small wins. I'm talking about like she would have parties for corny stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
yeah.
man, what's the occasion?
So sometimes women they have that mama touch,
Right, right.
just that people
But
just love them more because they
yeah,
got that mama touch.
right. But don't miss what I said. You
Yeah.
gotta you gotta set you have to set a winning culture, a
Mm,
culture of winning.
okay.
Think about that. And so it's not going to happen always on the big fish. It's just you just got to have some wins.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
keep winning. And
yeah.
I'm telling you, winners win and losers lose.
Hmm. I got another question. This is a big question. We got 3 questions from Brittany. You ready for these?
Okay.
All right.
Bring them on.
So I don't think we can. Yeah, we can see him. So, what advice would you give a talented person who, number one, writes their own music? We'll start with that one.
Okay. Um,
Well, this is off topic, I believe, too.
okay.
So we'll try to not to go too far off of this topic. So, what advice would you give a talented person who writes their own music? And I guess produce their own music makes a separate platform. I guess we're still talking about goals. I'm not sure, but that was the first question. Write their own music. I guess lyrical writers and not the artists who are rapping and singing, but it sounds like she's talking about people who write music.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm getting out of it.
Okay. So, just want to know, like, first of all, I mean, it's the same thing that people that don't write their own music. It's
Same thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's you have to set your measurable goals and what are you trying to achieve? You have to figure that out. Um, you have to figure that out. I can't. You have to get with somebody who can help you figure that out. Have a mentor, a coach, or somebody who can sit with you and just say, "Hey, what do you want to do with your career?" And um, sit with them and create a plan to get
Mhm.
there. Now, I use this example a lot about trying to get to California. Okay, so I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and let's say if I'm trying to get to California, or I'm just trying to go on vacation, right? And I just go in my car and I just start driving. I don't know where I'm going. I just get in my car and I just start driving, and I say, hey, I want to go on vacation, and I end up in Arizona somewhere, and I'm like, I don't, you know, this is cool, but this not, you know, I don't feel like this will be a great vacation spot. So I get in my car and I just start driving and driving and driving again. And I end up
Mm.
in Washington, right? And so, and I'm like, man, it's cold. You know, it's like, this ain't a vacation spot.
Yeah.
Where am I? Right. And so you know, you go to like that what you call it? The tourist station. And
Mm.
so you go to you're in there and you look at the brochure, you see a brochure of like palm trees, you see the you know, beach, you see like, you know, sand everywhere, and you're like, man, where is that? And they'll tell you that's California. It's like, man, I'm in Washington. What I'm And they're like, no, you didn't passed up. You need to go back. You need to go almost like back home before you can actually get there, right?
Yeah.
And so so you're looking and you're like, man, why didn't think about this? Because you didn't set the goal. You didn't know where you wanted to go. You just started doing music and you just wanted to see what was going to happen. You had no destination, you had no plan, you didn't have anything in place to say that you don't know what success looked like to you.
Some people like getting lost too. Some people just want to drive and get lost.
But look how much time you've wasted on your vacation.
True.
So now you got to go back, and you might spend like a day and like a half a day in California. You got to figure out what your goal is. What is it? What is going to make you happy in your career? That's going to say that, hey, I love doing what I'm doing. Okay, so number one, for who was that? That was for Brittany. Is set goals. You need to figure out and sit down, get with a coach, get with a mentor, somebody that's doing this, that has been in the music industry for a minute, and figure out what your goals are going to be. And so it doesn't matter what you do in the music industry, you need to set those goals to have a direction on where you want to go to, because your goals might be different from somebody else's goals. So it's not a simple question to say, hey, this is what you should do or whatever. You got to set some goals, and then you have to set some measurable goals to inside of that to reach what you're trying to get to. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So she was actually asking a question overall in reference to taking your career to the next level. So we'll try to stick with goals, because that's another question for maybe another show. But a question I had, we're always going forward with our goals and our vision, and that's good. You know, I like to go forward. I don't like to look back. Is that a bad thing, that I don't want to look backwards sometimes, go backwards? You know, should I be going backwards sometimes?
You should not be going backwards, but you should always look back just to see how far you've come. Now, I'm not talking about, you know, in the Bible, they have you know, Lot's wife that looks back and she turns into a pillar of salt because she just longed to be where she was coming from. And I'm not trying to get so super spiritual or whatever, but I want you to think about, remember when you're setting goals and you're selling your celebration, you're celebrating where you came from. It's those small baby steps, right? We all get excited when the baby makes his first step, right? And then we all get excited. We have a party. We put it all on social media. You know, look, my baby's walking. All this other stuff, right? And so when it starts to run a little bit, it starts to get a little fast. We want to, you know, that baby's moving. You know, but those measurable things that you see, those mile points in your life, you need to celebrate those things. And so, but you look back and you say, man, remember I was crawling. And now you appreciate how far you come, instead of being so frustrated that you're not at your goal. And so that makes you appreciate, you know, what you're doing, is saying that, yo, like for me, for instance, 25 years ago, I started with a karaoke machine, if you know what that is. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I started with a karaoke machine. You couldn't tell me nothing. It was the best thing since sliced bread, right? And you know, I was flipping tapes, if you know what a tape is. I was, you know, putting the tape and like had the pillow over the mic. I had a Casio keyboard. You know, I had a little computer mic or whatever. just trying to, trying to get that stuff, get it clean. I took it to some producers and they couldn't tell me nothing. They was just like, yo, it's clean. It's clean. Cause I figured out it was the best thing in the world to me. Right. I didn't have the big studio. I didn't have like, everything given to me. I didn't have this trust fund or, these opportunities. At that time, I think I had a job, but I didn't have no enough for studio time to learn and all of this stuff. I had to work with what I had. But when I look now, I'm far from where I want to be. I know where my goals are. But if I look back and say, man, that's where I started. Wow. Man, God is good.
That reminds me of the Israelites. It was good for them to look back at how God brought them through so many hard situations, because they always forgot about God. They were always disobedient. But I think God wanted them to remember the things he did for them and brought them through, like the Red Sea, the victories that he gave them. So it's definitely I agree, man. Looking back at those things where you came from is definitely helpful. I wonder about some of the stuff that artists don't like looking back at, though. Like, what about music that just like was corny? Like, because the stuff that I look back at, some stuff that I look back, I was like, I did that, I sounded like that, and I don't want to listen to it anymore. Like, is that how I should be thinking when I look back at stuff like that and it doesn't sound good? Is it helpful? Is there help in that thought?
I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, there's some projects, and I'm thinking about 3 of them right now that I cannot go listen to. The execution was horrible, horrible. But I use it as a reference point to say that it because it was so bad, it pushes me to get better. Even the music that I'm putting out now, and I'm helping artists put out. I'm looking at it. I'm always studying. I'm falling in love. I fell in love with the process. I love studying artists. I love studying, about producing. I love studying about this stuff because I want the next project to sound better than the last. And don't miss that. The last project was not perfect. I want the next one to sound even better, And so when you look back, if you, like I said, if you're just trying to, like, for nostalgia reasons, go back and just, try to, listen to some of the old stuff or whatever, that's a good thing, just to kind of, appreciate. There's some stuff that I went back and listened to that I was just like, man, this was good stuff. Why didn't this artist push this? Like, what happened? What did they do? They back in the studio for what? This works, and I'm like, and I can't do nothing because it's not my project. And I'm kind of stuck on. I'm gonna be honest with you. That question from I'm sorry, question from Brittany. You have to. You talked about going to the next level. You have to, number one, figure out what level you're on. And be realistic about where you are. As far as your music, you're continuing to study. They talk about the 10,000 hours. That's going to get you to a whole nother level. You have to continue to look at what are what's a better way to write your songs. What's a better way to communicate your music to a specific audience. You got to figure out who that audience is. Spoiler alert, you are your audience. Okay. And where are the people that are like you? It's not just about writing the songs. It's about getting those songs into the hands, into the ears of the people who need it. Not that I say the people who liked it, the people who need it.
And who are those people?
You're writing songs that are going to solve problems. Okay, you're writing problem-solving songs. You got to get them into the people, get your songs to the people who need the problem solved.
Yeah. Who are those people who need it? Who are those people you talking about?
So think about what your song is talking about. What
Yeah.
every song is talking about a different problem,
It's like a
about a
demographic.
different issue.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Let's say, what issue are you dealing with?
Hmm.
And so there are companies, there's organizations, there are um uh uh you know youth ministers and stuff like that. There's schools, there's prisons, people who need your music to
Yeah.
survive,
Yeah.
to get through, their roughest times. And so we put it out there saying that it's going to hit everybody when it's not, to be honest with you. And so you have to get into the hands of the people who actually is going to benefit from your music. Just putting it on Facebook and YouTube and all of that stuff, that's not the end goal. Your
Yeah.
end goal is to get it into the hands of the people who really, really honestly need your music. And you
Yeah.
don't
Yeah. Yeah.
until you get into those people's hands.
Now I was going to ask, actually about the goal, and you just mentioned that, is that something we should add into our goals? And yeah, that makes perfect sense, man.
Mhm.
I think I got one more question. I think this is a really good question because, I guess we like to, we are people who, hopefully I can word this right, but we are people who, I'm just going to straight out say it. We never set consequences for goals.
Let's go here.
I wonder why, why don't we set consequences for these goals as artists? Like, what is it about us? And should we, like, what's the point of setting these consequences for these goals?
So I love this because it's so stinking controversial. Okay, so when's the last time you punished yourself because you didn't do what you said that you were going to do?
It's been a while. I can't even think of a time right now.
What we do is we want to hold everybody else accountable for their failures, but don't want to hold ourselves accountable for ours.
Yeah.
How fair is that? Like, for real? Like, let's go back to the restaurant. Let's go back to the food analogy that we had at the beginning of this. And if our burger or if our steak doesn't come out the way that we need it to come out, we trying not to pay. You know what I'm saying? We trying not to do anything. We trying to get out of there and have the meal and not have to pay anything because they didn't do what they said that they were going to do. Yeah. But when you set a goal and you don't reach your goal, what's the consequences? Are you like, there's no dessert, there's no Twinkie cakes, there's no television for you. You can't watch the Marvel TV shows. You can't watch Malcolm in the Middle. Like what? Like what's your consequences? You have to set consequences for yourself. That's the only way that you're going to you're going to consistently reach your goals. What we do is that we don't have a consequence in place and we don't reach our goal. What we do, we set up another goal.
Yeah,
that's all we do. Yeah. And then when we don't reach that one, we set up another one. And we feel bad about it, but like, what's the consequence?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you going to punish yourself for not getting your stuff done? If you're on a label, there's consequences for you not doing what you said that you're going to do, because we hold the label responsible for them not doing what they're supposed to do, and we don't hold that same standard for ourselves.
Yeah. So talking about labels, is it easier or is it harder? I would imagine it's harder as an independent artist to have consequences for yourself, right? Because on a record label, they're going to put deadlines in place and they're going to penalize you. So
good ones do.
Good ones, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Hey, So yeah, what was I going to say? What was I going to say? What was I going to say about that? Um, well, by the way, people who are watching, thank you for tuning in. Dropping in, saying good stuff. Got people. Hey, Mr. Crew, by the way, was on my show 2 weeks ago. What's up, Crew? Cruz. What's up, Mr. Cruz? And he's a producer, so I'm definitely gonna try to have you two on the show at one point. I don't know when, but he's a good producer, good guy. But yeah, going back to one more question about this. You said accountability. What does that look like? Like who should we be getting accountability from? Like if we're an independent artist, because I feel like if you're on a record label, you are probably going to have accountability from somebody off the record label, right? Maybe an A&R, if I'm correct. But as an independent artist, how do you get accountability, or do you mean something else when you say accountability?
So I'm gonna answer that question not how you think I'm going to answer it. Number one is you need to, as far as independent artists are concerned, you need to have an accountability partner. Okay, somebody who's going to be real with you and keep you accountable for the goals that you set. Right? It's not just on you. It's you need to have somebody, whether it's a husband, whether it's a wife, whether it's a best friend, whether it's your mom or dad or something like that, somebody who is going to keep it real and call you and say, hey, you said that you was going to do this. What happened? What's going on?
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. Okay. So, but the number two thing, which is a lot more important, is you mentioned an A&R. And so you have, in the record industry, the A&R position does not exist anymore. Because they're relying on independent labels, the smaller labels, to do that for them before they get signed to a bigger labels. Okay, so but there is a solution. Sanctified Sound is a solution. Okay, what we do.
Go ahead, throw in your tag. Throw in your tag for this.
Because there's for what we do, there's not a lot of people that's doing. We are A&Rs for independent, for the independent artist. Okay, that's literally what we do. Is we train and we coach. We set goals and hold you accountable to those particular goals, because you're not going to get what we give you anywhere else. And specifically, if you're doing positive music, Christian music, holy hip hop, if you will, inspirational type of stuff. That's the clients that we have. We specifically hold you, and we have a system in place that's going to help you to find out where your weaknesses are. Focus on your weaknesses. Focus on the gaps that you have in your plan, and help you to position yourself for success. Because you have to get in the right position to be successful. You don't just go out and be successful. Just because you make an NBA squad don't mean you're going to be an all-star.
Yeah.
Right. You have to have a coach that's going to tell you what you're doing wrong. Right. And position and put you in the right position to be successful. When I talk about working on your weaknesses, let's look at real quick the difference. Let's stay on basketball. You have the small forward, you have the point guard, and you don't want him in the paint. You know what I'm saying? You don't want him blocking Shaq. You know what I'm saying? Or blocking like the big man. That's not his thing. And so you want him to be the point guard to handle the ball and to distribute the ball and shoot the ball whenever it deems necessary, right? Mm-hmm. But a coach has to put that particular player in the right position, okay? In the right position to be successful. Because a coach is going to look at what you do and say, hey, you need to maybe space your feet out a little bit more, get a base in, become ambidextrous, and I know I just used a big word, uh, to where you can dribble with your right hand and your left hand at the same time, because you might have different defenders, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to, let's work on those particular set of skills, so that now when you get out there, you're in the best position to be successful. So you need a coach, and I understand that that's still a viable place as far as A&Rs are concerned. That's still I'm not saying every label doesn't have it, but I'm talking about major labels have discontinued that particular position, because they don't want to spend the resources. They don't want to spend the resources on the A&R, on developing artists. They want the independent labels to do that. Okay, so they, like I said, they do have the A&R position. I'm not saying that they don't. What I'm saying is that you have a lot of labels that do not do that, do not have it, because they don't have the capital, they don't have the money to pay for someone who's going to specifically work on that. Not everyone, I'm saying a lot of them don't. And so you want to get with someone, or get with a company or a coach that specifically works on that to get you to a whole nother level. Okay.
Yeah,
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that A&R topic, I think it's a big topic too. I think when you start talking about the record label and positions, I think that's a big topic we can definitely talk about another time for sure. But yeah, man, we are out of time, and I think today's show was great. We got through a lot as far as the goal topics, and yeah, I hope you people who are watching, y'all got some good gems out of this one. I feel like a lot of people agree with what you were saying for sure. Yeah, I like the fact we talked about accountability too. I think that's another big topic to talk about when it comes to record labels. And I think it's critical for us Christians, because we always talk about accountability in our walk with God, with other people. But yeah, man, I'm definitely going to have this dude, Victor Smith, on the show. A lot of knowledge coming from his brain. My brain is on fire right now. I feel like I'm on a hot seat, not him. So
oh no, man. Hey, real quick, a lot of I know we didn't specifically talk about, like, the things that we have set up for recording artists here. We did just start a school for recording artists. You go on our website, www.sanctifiedsound.org. You will see that we set up a school, an online school for recording artists, where we teach you how to. I literally sit down with you and teach you how to set your goals, how to develop your message, your performance techniques and studio techniques and all that type of stuff. We literally help you get to that next level through the online school or what we do. And also, if I'm doing my shameless plug for the book of Are You Serious? It's literally on our website. This is the next step guide for the Christian recording artists. It's literally a lot of the stuff that we talked about came specifically from that book. So
yeah, check out that website, sanctifiedsound.org, right?
Right.
Yeah, check it out. And I've actually logged into the educational website. I really like what you got going on there. It looks professional, legit, and it looks like you are definitely going to learn a lot from this school. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. Had a great time talking with you, Victor. Victor. I said Victor. I can't say Victor. I hear people they say I got this accent. I need to pronounce. That's another story. But thank you all for tuning in. Stay tuned. Be blessed. Flowing God's love. Till next time, y'all. Be out of here.
Peace.